Today we're going to talk about medical tourism. Can it save you thousands? Join me in welcoming Mark from GoMedEscape.com as he talks to us about ways that we can save thousands of dollars by going abroad for medical tourism. Here we go, y'all. Hello.
Hi, Kat. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. Very nice to meet you in person.
It's nice to meet you as well. Where are you from originally?
I was born and raised in Costa Rica, but I moved to the States for college. And as you can see, I'm way past college. So
You
I've been living
stayed.
in the States for about 35 years.
Nice. You still have a little accent, so
I do.
looks
It
like.
never went away. So funny because I have three sisters. Two of them, they are, you would never guess that they're from Costa Rica. And then my other sister and me, we have a thick accent. And we all had exactly the same education.
You never know. I know my
Yeah.
one friend, she's from Australia, but you don't hear the accent until she gets around other Australians. And then I'm like,
See, but I find that impressive. People that can change their accent. I can't. I'm just, doesn't matter what language I speak, it's always going to come out.
that's so cool. Well, I'm so glad you're here so we can chat. Tell me a little bit
Great.
about yourself and what led you to create Medscape.
Sure. So, so I'm an investment banker slash private equity by trade, but I decided to leave it in 2012. I was just, it wasn't fulfilling for me. I wanted to do something that I was, that it was a little more passionate about, that made a difference. So I left that world and I started a company based here in LA called Bistro. Bistro was a plant-based meal delivery company nationwide. So we would ship meal, we would make them all in LA and we would ship them nationwide through FedEx. This is back when, meal delivery was something pretty new. I was able to grow it to by 2019, we were making $25 million a year in revenue. And then 2020 came and the pandemic killed us. In the
Yeah.
beginning, it was great because you couldn't find food anywhere, so everybody went online. But because you can only find food online, then everybody started selling online. So all my costs got messed up. So I got out of there in 2024, and I was trying to figure out what was the next step. I didn't find any opportunities that I found compelling in the food industry. I think the food industry, since the pandemic, has become very, very difficult. Um, and I saw an opportunity in medical tourism. I myself have been doing medical tourism since I moved to the States because I have my doctors in Costa Rica that I love, that I know. A lot of them I went to high school with, so I trust. And so I kept traveling for medical tourism, but um, it happened right when I was looking for these opportunities. I had an issue with my teeth. Went to my dentist here in LA, and the dentist gave me a $20,000 estimate.
That is
And
steep.
considering that dental insurance covers, at least mine covers up to 1,500 a year, that was a pretty big bill. So I sent the estimate to my dentist in Costa Rica, and he looked at it and he said, everything checks out. I checked your x-rays. There's nothing nefarious here, but, if you fly over here, I can do the same thing for $4,000. So I just booked a plane and went down there, got it done with a dentist that I know he's amazing, educated in top universities in the US standards. So I figured, this is a really good opportunity. I do this because I know the doctors, but most Americans don't. And then when I started doing research, I realized that, even though it's a pretty big market, the medical tourism in the US, it's not where it should logically be because, the cost of all these treatments that are not covered by insurance, they're impossible. So what do people do is, look at, for example, fertility. An IVF round here in LA, it's $25,000, $30,000. If I'm having fertility issues with my wife, and we go and we hear it's $30,000. We said, this is definitely not an option for us. But, they could go to Mexico, they could go to Costa Rica and be seen by the top doctors there that are mostly all of them either educated in top universities in the US or Europe. And it would cost you $9,000 to do it. It's a huge difference. So I realized that most medical tourism companies are, in my opinion, they're not doing it the right way because they're not erasing those frictions that are causing people not to trust. So I decided to build a platform that erodes all those frictions. And some of the ways that I do it is, for example, payment is done in the US, not in the country where you're going to. So payment is done through my platform. So that opens you to the possibility of financing through through the checkout because the payment is being done here. Also, providers are not allowed to charge in advance, which is another one of the red
Right.
flags that people find. And because it's done through the platform, the provider is also protected. Because I do understand why they like to charge in advance. So what I did is I spoke to doctors that take medical tourism patients, and I talked to patients that have done medical tourism abroad to understand what those frictions were. And this platform was created to, to erode or cancel those frictions.
That's amazing. How do you think your background prepared you for building this business?
Well, I spent a lot of time abroad. I chose these three markets, Costa Rica, Panama, and Mexico City, because I've lived there and because I have a network there and I've seen doctors there and I've visited the clinics. So it was easier for me to, to build the list of providers that I was going to screen. I still screened them, even though I knew some of them. Uh, but at least I know those markets. Now I'm starting to expand to markets that I don't know as well. Colombia, for example.
Mhm.
We're gonna start adding plastic surgery.
Oh, nice.
Uh, and Colombia has the best plastic surgeons with the most experience. They, by the time they're 30 years old, they have a huge portfolio. Um, and I'm also adding stem cell clinics in Panama and Costa Rica. So how did it help my background? Well, I did travel around those places. I knew some of the providers. I know the culture, and because I've done it before, I know how safe it can be. It can also be very unsafe if you don't do it right, but how safe it can be if you do it right. And that's what I'm, trying to help people with here in the States.
Now, for people who don't know and they're just jumping in, what is medical tourism exactly?
So medical tourism is when you decide to go abroad for outside of the United States for a treatment or a procedure or medical procedure and take advantage of the fact that you're in a new destination and, use it also as a vacation. So it serves as your treatment plus vacation. It doesn't have to be a really long time. For example, if you're going for hair implants in Mexico, the treatment is going to be, you need to be in the city 3 days, which means that if you take a week off, you have 4 days that you can travel around and explore.
Ooh, 4 days for a little vacay.
Yes.
Why do you think so many Americans are traveling outside the US for healthcare, not just beauty treatments anymore? They're going for actual, like you talked about, dental care, endocrinologist care, reproductive care.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of the treatments that we offer, including aesthetic, they're elective. You know, you go and you see if it's too expensive with your doctor in the States, you may be fine not doing it. Some of the treatments that we offer, they're not as elective. They're seen as elective by the insurance companies, but they're not. Like, for example, fixing your teeth. A lot of people that travel abroad, for example, in Latin America, most medical tourism is done in the dental category because if you're going to get an all-on-4, which means, you're going to, get a bunch of implants in your mouth, an all-on-4 in the States can cost you between, you know, 20 to $30,000, 20 with a questionable dentist, And over there, you can be seen by the top dentist in the city, and it's going to cost you $12,000 to
Yeah.
do the same procedure.
I'm
At the
actually
end, they're
doing some
using,
next month for dental myself.
oh, good. Where are you going?
Um, we have a friend that has a dentist in Guadalajara, and they've gone to him,
Very
and
nice.
he's Texas trained from A&M. I'm originally from Texas, so I feel very confident. I know people who've gone there. So what I'm getting done would cost me here in the States like $4,500. I'm going to go there with my hotel stay for the week, my flights and everything. I'll probably be out the door around $1,500. So.
That's exactly right. That's the benefit of medical tourism.
What procedures are you seeing the biggest growth in right now?
So we launched recently, but and we launched only on those four categories. What we're seeing a lot, which I was surprised because I expected to see mostly dental, which we're seeing a lot of dental, but we're seeing tons of fertility. Fertility is our number one category,
It's
which
so
says a lot
expensive.
about the state that
Yeah.
that the U.S. is in, because this is just families that are trying to start a family, and paying those rates is ridiculous. My sister went through 3 rounds of IVF, and
Mm.
then she ended up getting pregnant naturally when she decided that she was quitting IVF. But she spent a lot of money on those treatments.
Yeah. And here in the States, insurance on that is kind of a joke.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's some insurance companies, especially through employers, are starting to cover some of it, but most individual insurance, they don't cover it at all.
hmm Do you think it's mostly about saving money, or are there other reasons people are traveling to other countries for their services?
I think the first time they do, at least from what I've seen, the first time they travel abroad, it's economical.
hmm
What we've seen is that they love the treatment that they get over there, and they just keep going afterwards because of the relationships that they built for them. Let me give you an example. Uh, Most of the fertility doctors that we partner with, if you go for an IVF treatment, the doctor is going to give you his personal phone number that you can reach out to him whenever you want. You know, Here you
That
get
would
five
never
minutes of your
happen.
doctor's
Never happen
attention.
here.
Yeah, exactly. They explain everything to you. They show you. They have the best technology. When you're sitting in that chair, you really feel the difference. Um, so what we've seen is that people keep going back because they've had such good experience.
What trends do you think we're going to see over the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, I think it should blow up. The medical tourism market should blow up in more categories. Stem cell is going to keep getting huge, um, especially because it's not even approved in the US yet. And when it gets approved, it's going to be very expensive to do a stem cell treatment. So that area is going to grow a lot. Um, I think in general, all categories, because people are going to start asking themselves, why should I pay 3x? So the way I explain it is, you know, my dentist, for example, in LA, he's a good dentist, but I wouldn't say he's the top dentist in LA. He's middle of the road. He's okay. Um, the dentists that we work with in Costa Rica that cost a third, they are the top providers that you can find from top universities in the US. So you know that they have US standards, and especially when you talk to them, they speak fluent English. They make you feel a lot more comfortable. They give you the attention that you deserve, especially because you're looking out for them for an issue that you're bringing. So whether it's your teeth, whether it's fertility, hair, it's an issue, and I think we've been a little desensitized here in the US, where we don't expect a lot from our doctors. You're seen by a nurse, and then the doctor comes in for a few minutes, he checks everything, and then he leaves. There's no interaction, no relationship, no reassurance. It becomes very sterile and robotic. And that's something that you will not experience in Latin America or, in other clinics abroad.
I also think sometimes too here in the US, and this is of course just my personal opinion, but big pharma is way too involved with what the doctors are actually doing. Because one of my dear
Yeah,
friends, the one we discussed with the accent only when she's around other Australians, she has MS. So she does go to Guadalajara for her medical care. She has a whole team there because they'll treat it a little more holistically. Where here in the US, her doctor unless she's on the MS meds daily, which have so many side effects on their own, she only needs them if there's an emergency. Um, they won't treat her.
yeah,
So it's like, what? So you want her to go downhill faster? It doesn't make the math doesn't math. And it's because they're pushing the meds to the doctors. So the doctors are pushing the meds to the patients.
exactly.
And I want
And
you to
and
think
I'm not
outside the box.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that this is the case with all the doctors, but because the insurance issue
Mhm.
stops them from earning, you know, sometimes enough money, so they try to get them in different ways, especially through partnerships with like you said with pharma. So their interest is not always 100% the patient. They have to think of themselves too. In Latin America, why is it cheaper? It's not cheaper because it's worse, or it's not cheaper because they don't have the right standards. It's cheaper because they don't have to deal with insurance. They don't have
They
to
don't
deal
have all
with
that overhead. Yeah.
exactly. They don't have the overhead. They don't have to deal with crazy, ridiculous malpractice insurance that raises everybody's prices. So there is a lot of benefits of doing it over there. It's just you need to be very careful on who you do it with, and that's why we're here for. We screen the clinics for you.
Because that's everyone's question. Everyone is always worried about, is it safe? That's the elephant in the room. So my question on that note is, how do you vet the doctors and the hospitals and the facilities that we're going to?
Okay, we have a list of checks that we do on each clinic. We check all their certifications. We, check all the degrees, the standards, the cleanliness standards, the equipment that they use. We look at reviews in different platforms. Obviously, and we're very strict on that. For example, we don't accept provider that has less than 50 reviews because we want to make sure that they have a lot of reviews that we can trust, and also we don't accept doctors that have less than a 4.5 on Google reviews. We do personal visits to the clinic to make sure that everything matches. I personally meet all the doctors. Uh, most of them personally, some of them I've had to meet online, but I just want to make sure that, they're good people, they're easy to work with. We have a big list of checks that we do to make sure that, they are the right providers. Are there cheaper providers? Yes, you can find a lot cheaper than this, but that's not what we're offering. We're not offering cheap, we're offering the best.
And I think
And
that's
it's still going to be
important.
a lot cheaper than the
Oh,
US.
yeah, it's still going to be a lot less than here, but also,
Yeah.
they want to be safe too, and they want to know they're getting good quality. What certifications or accreditations should someone look for?
Well, so, um, if it's a surgeon, it would be amazing if it's board certified, but not all of them are. The ones I personally, I prefer providers that studied in the U.S. and we look at the universities. When you go see a doctor, when do you ask them what university they went to? They could have gone to Harvard. They could have gone to, who knows what university. So you can actually see that before you book. When you compare with the providers, you can see, hey, this one, studied at USC and got this degree in USC. That says a lot. At least to me, it does, because that tells me that all their training was done in the US. They, manage US standards. at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to be looking for, because those standards are not just going to be the way they do the procedures, it's how they manage the clinic in general, from cleanliness to what equipment they use.
That's amazing. I like that. What countries, if you had to list a top three, have impressed you the most for quality of care?
Um, so, Costa Rica I've known because that's where I've seen my doctors, and, you know, amazing doctors in Costa Rica. I've been very, very impressed with the providers that we've gotten in general, all of them, but in Mexico particularly. Um, we have a dentist in Mexico. He's a surprisingly young dentist, but he is one of the most renowned dentists in Mexico City. His clinic is something that I've never seen before, not even in Beverly Hills. It looks like a spa. It's so beautiful. He showed me all the equipment. He has their own lab. The equipment that they use, it's state of the art. He spent millions of dollars building this clinic, and you're not just going to a pretty clinic. You're going with somebody that, and in his young age, he must be, I don't know, in his early 30s. He is done so much, and he's innovate is he's been very innovative in the industry in Mexico, and I think he has a brilliant future. The two fertility clinics that we work in Mexico, they are the nicest, most accommodating people, very, very capable doctors. Um, you know, because we only work with up to 3 providers per category per city. So, we're very, very selective. We want to make sure that we work with good people. So, because the way the interaction is with us, we can expect the same level of interaction with the patient. A provider that's rude to us, we know what's going to happen if they don't
That's
get
how
what
they're
they
going
want
to
from the
treat the
patient.
clients. Yeah.
Exactly. So we built these relationships. We talk to the providers on a weekly basis. And actually we have our own coordinator. So whenever a patient books a consult, our coordinator joins the call with the provider for the first few minutes, just to make sure that all the questions are answered. And then they drop off so they can have a private conversation. Uh,
That's
but
wonderful.
but we like to be involved, and we like to reassure the patient, and we are with the patient from beginning to follow up. So at any point they can reach out. If they're in Panama and they don't know where they are, they can contact our coordinator and say, hey, I'm here, I'm looking for a Chinese restaurant, what do you recommend? And she'll give you recommendations.
Oh, I love
you know
that.
yeah, so we want to make it as easy as possible. We want to hold their hand. We want to make them feel like, even though you're in a country that you've never been to and you don't know anybody, and you're going to see a doctor there for a procedure, you're going to feel like you're not alone.
I like that. And most of the staff at the clinics we're sending people to, we're talking about Latin American countries, Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico. They have staff there that speak English. So if someone were coming in and they were todo in Inglés, they no Spanish whatsoever, they'd be able to communicate and they wouldn't feel overwhelmed or scared.
Yes, that's one of the prerequisites when we screen clinics. Their staff needs to be fluent in English. Not everybody, but they need to have, we want the doctors to be fluent, and we want their patient coordinators to be fluent.
I love that. And you talked about it a little bit, but someone can finance some of this medical tourism through your platform?
Yes, because the payment is done in the platform, and payment is done here in the US through Stripe, which is a huge, safe platform. Then we are able to offer financing through a firm. I don't know if you're familiar with a firm. They
Uh-huh.
do kind of like buy now, pay later
Yeah.
from
A lot
checkouts.
of the cruise lines do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing it through a checkout, then you can do financing through a firm, which is they do a soft credit check, and if you're approved, They'll tell you immediately, and they'll tell you what your term and your interest is, and your payments are going to be. Um, so, it's very accessible. Even though you're saving up to 70% from what it would cost in the US, you can still finance it. So, you can turn it into, a couple $100 a month payment.
I love that. Do patients usually bring someone with them when they're going, a companion or?
Patients, in our experience, a lot of them bring somebody else, their
Mhm.
significant other. We've had a few single patients that, they just go in and out. Usually when they go with their significant other, they stay an extra few days to explore the city. But yeah, I would say most of them would be with a partner, which is understandable. You're going to a new country, you might not want to do it by yourself.
I'm going by myself. My husband has
It's
to
a
work, and
hundred
I was
percent
like, I'm
safe.
gonna go, it's fine.
And the other thing that we do, we have partnerships with hotels and Airbnbs in these cities. So we make sure to recommend you, as a patient, you don't have to buy it with us. You can if you want. We have special pricing, but at least we're recommending you places where, you're going to be very safe, places that are walkable, that are close to nice restaurants and cafes. So you're not going to feel trapped and scared in your hotel room.
Mhm. Well, I know Mexico is such a popular destination, and I love that Panama and Costa Rica are growing because I've been to both of those countries lately, and the people were truly lovely. So I could see how that could explode. Are there other destinations that surprise people?
Um, in what sense? Um,
Like, do you
with
have
the with
like
the
Turkey sometimes is big on the hair implant list. Do you guys have people there that you recommend?
in Turkey we don't. Right now we're focusing on Latin America.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep opening markets, and if everything works out, eventually we'll do Turkey and other Southeast Asian locations. But right now, I'm focusing on Latin America because my target market is US and Canada only. And it's more likely and it's easier for Americans and Canadians to take a 2, 3, 4 hour flight to a place that has a similar culture than going all the way around the world and not have an idea of what's going on.
Now, when you talk to people about it, what's the biggest myth people throw at you about medical tourism?
It's the safety thing.
Yeah.
And, usually I tell them, yes, there are some bad doctors down there, just like there's some bad doctors here too.
There's bad doctors
And
down the
this,
street.
yes, exactly. And this is exactly the reason why we exist, because we want to make sure that if you're considering it, that you're going to see the right doctors.
What should people pack when they're planning for these trips?
I recommend if the treatment that you're doing allows for some fun, depending on the destination. If you're gonna go to Mexico City, I recommend to stay in the city and explore it because it's a fantastic city. You're gonna eat like you've never eaten before. It's the most amazing restaurants that I've had. So I recommend there's day trips that you can do, but the city it's got a lot to offer. Costa Rica, what I usually tell our patients is go and do your work and then head to the beach. Get out of the city, head to the beach. Amazing beaches, beautiful. Or, if you are more like the rainforest kind of person, there's beautiful, beautiful retreats where you can just go and recover from whatever treatment you had made. Um, Panama, it doesn't feel that much different from the U.S. It's a more developed capital. Panama is it's more usually our patients are in and out, but it's a quick flight. It's dollarized, so people feel a lot more comfortable, and it has the U.S. feel.
Mhm. So should patients buy travel insurance before they're going?
So I always recommend if you have health insurance that covers international, that's great. This is will cover you on emergencies. It's not it's not specific coverage for the treatment, but we do offer through a third party. We offer travel insurance and international insurance
That's
just in case they
wonderful.
want to complement that.
I always recommend it when folks are traveling.
Yeah, so it's not a lot of money, especially if you're gonna make a big treatment, and it just covers all your bases.
What's been your proudest moment since you launched MedEscape?
It's every day going into the patient pipeline and see it moving its way to the right. That it's unbelievable. It's a great feeling. Also, seeing them, the amount of inquiries and consultations we've been able to bring in such a short amount of time, it completely beat my expectations.
What's your favorite local food when you're traveling?
I'm in Mexico, street tacos, but
Yes.
if yes, they're unbelievable. But again, you have to know where to go.
I
So
don't
I
care
always
where
ask
we're at. I
locals.
want street food. I want to find the little mom and
Yes,
pop cooking something on the side of the road and be
definitely,
like, I'm gonna eat that. I don't even care.
definitely. Costa Rica, wherever I go, I always get the whole fish. Most restaurants, especially the more typical ones, they have a whole fish, and it's unbelievable. And Panama, the food's a little bit more Americanized. Um, eh, I can't tell you of any specifics, but yeah, no, the street food always beats any restaurant.
I agree. Do you have a dream destination you haven't visited yet on your travel bucket list?
On my bucket list. When I was single, I always said that I wanted to spend 3 to 6 months in India. Now that I have kids, my type of destination completely changed. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, so traveling abroad for
Mhm.
fun, it's not really on my radar.
What advice would you give someone who's curious or and a little nervous about medical tourism?
Um, if you're not doing it with us, I'd say, do your research. Don't fall for the, nicest advertising or the most or the prettiest clinic. Um, Whenever they show you bells and whistles, it's because they don't want you to see something else. Do your research very well. Talk about certifications with them. Talk about the whole process. Very important. Talk about aftercare because that is the part that most people forget. And the aftercare, it's so important, and it makes a huge difference between a good provider and a mediocre one.
Who's the ideal candidate for medical tourism and who maybe is the no, you shouldn't do it?
I'd say, with the treatments that we're offering right now, it's just, anybody that wants to do those treatments that, you know, either can't afford it to do it in the US or don't want to do it in the US because of the price. What I don't recommend is, in the US, there's a reason why it's expensive. If you see somebody offering Latin America prices in the US, that's definitely a red flag. I always say there's something wrong there.
Where can listeners learn more about Metascape and you?
About me, you can check my LinkedIn page. I am very invested in the medical tourism space. I write a lot of articles about it. And the website as well. We post a lot of blogs. We want people. Right now, the issue is information, so I'm putting out a lot of information out there. If you're not sure, even if you don't want to use us, go to our website, check our blogs. It's very likely that you're going to be able to answer a lot of your questions. You can talk to our coordinators. It's risk-free. Just check it out. Go to Metascape GoMedEscape.com and choose your provider. Once you choose your provider, you are going to start hearing from our patient coordinator that's going to help you set the consultation with the provider and help you answer any questions.
So, travel has the power to transform lives, not just through adventure, but sometimes through better health. If our listeners remember only one thing from today's conversation about medical tourism, what would you want that to be?
Do a lot of research because the the quality of care that you're going to get over there, if you choose the right provider, is night and day to what we normally or we've gotten used to in the US. It's a huge difference. It's there's no reason to think that they're less capable, um, especially, you know, the ones we screen because we make sure that they're going to have the highest possibility of giving you the best outcome or, the same outcome that you would get in the US or better.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for talking with me today on Your Travel Bestie Kat.
Great. Thank you. Very nice meeting you.
Yes, sir.
And visit GoMedEscape.com.
Absolutely. And I'll tag it in the post. Have a great day.
Great. You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.